Hey there. This book came to my attention today, so I thought I'd check it out because it's on a subject that I'm interested in. It is called The Book of Pleasure, Self-Love, The Psychology of Ecstasy. It's by Osman Spare. It was published in 1913, and it's only a short book, so I thought I would check it out, and I'm going to record it in case I want to listen to it again. But I may actually add it to my channel. If you're seeing this, I guess it made the cut. Thanks for being here. It starts with definitions. The words God, religions, faith, morals, woman, etc., they being forms of belief, are used as expressing different means, as controlling and expressing desire. An idea of unity by fear in some form or another, which must spell bondage. The imaged limits, extended by science, which adds a dearly paid inch to our height, no more. Kia, K-I-A. The absolute freedom, which being free is mighty enough to be reality and free at any time. Therefore is not potential or manifest, except as its instant possibility, by ideas of freedom or means, but by the ego being free to receive it, by being free of ideas about it, and by not believing. The less said of it, Kia, the less obscure is it. Remember, evolution teaches by terrible punishments that conception is ultimate reality, but not ultimate freedom from evolution. Vice, fear, belief, faith, control, science, and the like. Self-love. A mental state, mood, or condition caused by the emotion of laughter, becoming the principle that allows the ego appreciation or universal association in permitting inclusion before conception. Exhaustion. That state of vacuity brought by exhausting a desire by some means of dissipation when the mood corresponds to the nature of the desire, i.e., when the mind is worried because of the non-fulfillment of such desire and seeks relief. By seizing this mood and living, the resultant vacuity is sensitive to the subtle suggestion of the sigil. Different religions and doctrines as means to pleasure, freedom, and power. So we're into a new chapter. What is there to believe but in self? And self is the negation of completeness as reality. No man has seen self at any time. We are what we believe, and what it implies by a process of time in the conception. Creation is caused by this bondage to formula. Actions are the expressions of ideas bound up in the belief. They, being inherent, are obscure, their operation indirect. Easily they deceive introspection. Fruits of action are twofold, heaven or hell, their unity or nothingness, purgatory or indifference. In heaven there is desire for women, hell the desire intense, purgatory is expectation delayed, indifference but disappointment till recovery. Then verily they are one and the same. The wise pleasure seeker, having realized they are different degrees of desire and never desirable, gives up both virtue and vice and becomes a keyist. Riding the shark of his desire, he crosses the ocean of the dual principle and engages himself in self-love. Religions are the projection of incapacity, the imaginations of fear, the veneer of superstition. That paradox is truth, while oftentimes the ornamentation of imbecility. As a virtue in the idea to maximize pleasure cheaply, remit your sins and excuse them, is but ceremonial, the expression of puppetry to the governing fear. Yes, what you have ordained in your religiousness is your very rack, imagined though it be. The prospect is not pleasant. You have taught yourself. It has become inborn and your body is insensitive. Some praise the idea of faith. To believe that they are gods or anything else would make them such, proving by all they do to be full of its non-belief. Better is it to admit incapacity or insignificance then reinforce it by faith, since the superficial protects but does not change the vital. Therefore, reject the former for the latter. Their formula is deception, and they are deceived. The negation of their purpose. Faith is denial, or the metaphor idiocy, hence it always fails. To make their bondage more secure, governments force religion down the throats of their slaves, and it always succeeds. Those who escape it are but few, therefore their honor is the greater. When faith perishes, the self shall come into its own. Others, less foolish, obscure the memory that God is a conception of themselves, and as much subject to law. Then this ambition of faith, is it so very desirable? Myself, I have not yet seen a man who is not God already. Others again, and those who have much knowledge, cannot tell you exactly what belief is, or how to believe in what defies natural laws and existing belief. Surely it is not by saying I believe that art has long been lost. They are even more subject to bewilderment and distraction directly. They open their mouths full of argument, without power and unhappy unless spreading their own confusion. To gain cogency, they must adopt dogma and mannerisms that exclude possibility. By the illumination of their knowledge, they deteriorate in accomplishment. Have we not watched them decay and ration to their expoundings? Verily, man cannot believe by faith or gain, neither can he explain his knowledge unless born of a new law. We being everything, wherefore the necessity of imagining we are not. Be ye mystic. Others believe in prayer have not all yet learnt, that to ask it to be denied. Let it be the root of your gospel, O ye who are living other people's lives. Unless desire is subconscious, it is not fulfilled. No, not in this life. Then verily sleep is better than prayer. Quiescence is hidden desire, a form of not asking. By it, the female obtains much from man. Utilize prayer, if you must pray, as a means of exhaustion, and by that you will obtain your desire. Some do much to show the similarity of different religions. Certainly, by it I prove the possibility of a fundamental illusion. By that they never realize, or this ukase, they are the mockery, for how much they regret. They suffer more conflict than the unenlightened. With what they can identify their own delusion of fear, they call truth. They never see this similarity and the quintessence of religions, their own poverty of imagination, and religion's palliation. Better is it to show the essential difference of religions. It is all well to know that various means is not their object to deceive and govern. Surely then, for the attainment of the transcendental, God and religion should have no place. Some praise truth so called, but give it many containers. Forgetting its dependence, they prove its relationship in paradox, the song of experience and illusion. Paradox is not truth, but the truth that anything can be true for a time. What supersedes paradox and its implicit not necessary, I will make the foundation of my teaching. Let us determine the deliberative, the truth cannot be divided. Self-love only cannot be denied, and is self-love as such when paradoxical, under any condition, hence it alone is truth, without accessories, complete. Others praise ceremonial magic, and are supposed to suffer much ecstasy. Our asylums are crowded, the stage is overrun. Is it by symbolizing we become the symbolized? Were I to crown myself king, should I be king? Rather, should I be an object of disgust or pity? These magicians, whose insincerity is their safety, are but the unemployed dandies of the brothels. Magic is but one's natural ability to attract without asking. Ceremony, what is unaffected. Its doctrine, the negation of theirs. I know them well, and their creed of learning that teaches the fear of their own light. Vampires, they are as the very lice in attraction. Their practices prove their incapacity. They have no magic to intensify the normal, the joy of a child or healthy person, none to evoke their pleasure or wisdom from themselves. Their methods depending on a morass of the imagination and a chaos of conditions. Their knowledge obtained with less decency than the hyena his food. I say they are less free and do not obtain the satisfaction of the meanest among animals. Self-condemned in their disgusting fatness, their emptiness of power, without even the magic of personal charm or beauty, they are offensive in their bad taste and mongering for advertisement. The freedom of energy is not obtained by its bondage, great power not by disintegration. Is it not because our energy or mind stuff is already overbound and divided that we are not capable, let alone magical? Some believe any and everything is symbolic and can be transcribed and explain the occult, but of what they do not know. Great spiritual truths. So argument a metaphor, cautiously confusing the obvious which develops the hidden virtue. This unnecessary corpulency, however impressive, is it not disgusting? The elephant is exceedingly large, but extremely powerful. The swine, though odious, does not breed the contempt of our good taste. If a man is no hero to his servant, much less can he remain a mystic in the eyes of the curious. Similarity educates mimicry. Decorate your meaning, however objectionable as fact, after you have shown your honesty. Truth, though simple, never needs the argument of confusion for obscurity. Its own pure symbolism embraces all possibilities as mystic design. Take your stand in common sense, and you include the truth which cannot lie. No argument has yet prevailed. Perfect proportion suggests no alteration, and what is useless decays. They reject all the modern symbolism and reach an absurd limit very early. No counting on change and at times the arbitrary nature of symbolism or the chance of a preserved folly by their adoption of the traditional without a science as having reading to the present. Their symbolism is chaotic and meaningless. Not knowing the early rendering, they succeed in projecting their own meagerness by this confusion, as explaining the ancient symbols. Children are more wise. This conglomeration of antiquity decayed, collected with the disease of greed, is surely the chance for charity? Forgetting trumpery ideas, learn the best tradition by seeing you own functions and the modern unbiased. Some praise the belief in a moral doctrinal code, which they naturally and continually transgress and never obtain their purpose. Given the right nature, they succeed fairly in their own governing and are those most healthy, sane, and self-pleased. It may be called the negation of my doctrine. They obtain tolerable satisfaction, whereas mine is complete. Let him tarry here, who is not strong for the great work. In freedom he might be lost, so fledge your wings fearlessly, ye humble ones. Others say knowledge only is eternal. It is the eternal illusion of learning, the UKs of learning what we already know. Directly we ask ourselves how we induce stupidity. Without this conception, what is there we could not know and accomplish? Others for concentration, it will not free you. The mind conceiving the law is bondage. Arrived at that, you will want deconcentration. Disassociation from all ideas but one is not release but imaginative fulfillment, or the fury of creation. Others again, that all things are emanations of the divine spirit, as rays from the sun, hence the need of emancipation. Verily, things are of necessity through their conception and belief. Then let us destroy or change conception and empty the belief. These and many other doctrines are declared by me as the perpetrators of sin and illusion, each and all depending on a muddled implication, obscuring yet evolved from the duality of the consciousness for their enjoyment. In fear, they would vomit hot blood were they to see the fruits of their actions and pleasures. thus believing in widely different doctrines. They are of the dual principle, necessary parasites on each other. Like drugs and the surgeon's knife, they only annul or at best remove an effect. They do not change or remove the fundamental cause, the law. O God, thou art the stagnant environment. All is quackery. These religions, whose very existence depend on their failure, are so full of misery and confusion, have only multiplied arguments as full of argument as they are evil, so crowded with non-essentials, being so barren of any free pleasure in this life or another, I cannot uphold their doctrines. Their criterion for enjoyment, death. Better it were a man renounce them all and embrace his own invincible purpose. He cannot go further, and this is his only release. By it he may put his pleasure where he will and find the satisfaction. New chapter. The consumer of religion. Kia, in its transcendental and conceivable manifestation. Of name, it has no name to designate. I call it Kia. I dare not claim it as myself. The Kia, which can be expressed by conceivable ideas, is not the eternal Kia, which burns up all belief, but is the archetype of self, the slavery of mortality. Endeavoring to describe it, I write what may be, but not usually called the Book of Lies. The unorthodox of the originable, a volant sight that conveys somehow by the incidental that truth is somewhere. The Kia, which can be vaguely expressed in words, is the neither. The unmodified I in the sensation of omnipresence. The illumination symbolically transcribed in the sacred alphabet, and of which I am about to write. Its emanation is its own intensity, but not necessariness. It has and ever will exist. The virgin quantum, by its exuberance we have gained existence. Who dares say where, why, and how it is related? By the labor of time the doubter inhabits his limit. Not related to, but permitting all things, it eludes conception, yet is the quintessence of conception as permeating pleasure in meaning. Anterior to heaven and earth, in its aspect that transcends these, but not intelligence, it may be regarded as the primordial sexual principle, the idea of pleasure in self-love. Only he who has attained the death posture can apprehend this new sexuality, and its almighty love satisfied. He that is ever servile to belief, clogged by desire, is identified with such and can see but its infinite ramifications in dissatisfaction. The progenitor of itself and all things, but resembling nothing, this sexuality in its early simplicity embodies the everlasting. Time has not changed it. Hence, I call it new. This ancestral sex principle and the idea of self are one and the same, this sameness, its exaction and infinite possibilities. The early duality, the mystery of mysteries, the sphinx at the gates of all spirituality. All conceivable ideas begin and end as light in its emotion. The ecstasy which the creation of the idea of self induces. The idea is unity by the formula of self, its necessary reality as continuity, the question of all things. All this universe, visible and invisible, has come out of it. As unity conceived duality, it begot trinity, begot tetragrammaton. Duality being unity is time, the complex of conception, the eternal refluctuation to the primeval reality in freedom being, trinity of dualities, is the six senses, the five facets of sex projecting as environment for self-assimilation and denial, as a complete sexuality. Being tetragrammaton of dualities is 12-fold by arrangement, the human complex, and may be called the 12 commandments of the believer. It imagines the eternal decimal, its multiplicity embracing eternity, from which spring the manifold forms which constitute existence. Vitalized by the breath of self-love, life is conscious of one. Self being its opposing force is alternatively conflict, harmony, life, and death. These four principles are one and the same, the conception, considered as the complete self, or consciousness, hence. They may be blended into unity and symbolized. One form made by two, that is threefold and having four directions. New chapter. The Transcendental Law, the law and testament of the new. The law of Kia is its own arbiter, beyond necessitation. Who can grasp the nameless Kia? Obvious but unintelligible, without form, its design most excellent. Its wish is its superabundance. Who can assert its mysterious purpose? By our knowledge it becomes more obscure, more remote, and our faith opacity. Without attribute, I know not its name. How free it is! It has no need of sovereignty. Kingdoms are their own despoilers. Without lineage, who dare claim relationship? Without virtue, how pleasing in its moral self-love, how mighty it is. In its assertion of need not be, does not matter. Self-love in complete perspective serves its own invincible purpose of ecstasy. Supreme bliss, simulating opposition, is its balance. It suffers no hurt, neither does it labor. Is it not self-attracting and independent? Assuredly, we cannot call it balance. Could we but imitate its law, all creation without command would unite and serve our purpose in pleasure and harmony. Kia, transcending conception, is unchanging and inexhaustible. There is no need of illumination to see it. If we are open, there is no need of illumination to see it. If we open our mouths to speak of it, it is not of it, but of our duality, mighty though it be in its early simplicity. Kia, without conceiving, produces its rendezvous as the fullness of creation. Without assertion, the mightiest energy. Without smallness, it may appear the least among things. Its possession ours without asking, its being free, the only thing that is free. Without distinction, it has no favorites, but nourishes self. In fear, all creation pays homage, but does not extol its moral, so everything perishes unbeautifully. We endow ourselves with the power we conceive of it, and it acts as master, never the cause of emancipation. Thus, forever from self do I fashion the Kia, without likeness, but which may be regarded as the truth. From this consultation is the bondage made. Not by intelligence shall we be free. The law of Kia is its ever original purpose, undetermined. Without change, the emanations, through our conception, they materialize and are of that duality. Man takes this law from this refraction, his idea's reality. With what does he balance his ecstasy? Measure for measure by intense pain, sorrow, and miseries. With what his rebellion? Of necessity, slavery. Duality is the law, realization by suffering. Relates and opposes by units of time. Ecstasy for any length of time is difficult to obtain, and labored heavily for. Various degrees of misery, alternating with gusts of pleasure and emotions less anxious, would seem the condition of consciousness and existence. Duality in some form or another is consciousness as existence. It is the illusion of time, size, entity, etc., the world's limit. The dual principle is the quintessence of all experience. No ramification has enlarged its early simplicity, but is only its repetition. Modification or complexity. Never is its evolution complete. It cannot go further than the experience of self, so returns and unites again and again, ever an anti-climax. Forever retrogressing to its original simplicity by infinite complication is its evolution. No man shall understand why by its workings. Know it as the illusion that embraces the learning of all existence. The most aged ones who grows no wiser, It may be regarded as the mother of all things. Therefore, believe all experience to be illusion and the law of duality. As space pervades an object both in and out, similarly within and beyond this ever-changing cosmos, there is this secondless principle. New chapter. Soliloquy on Godhead. Who ever thought thus? Something is causing pain and something energizes the agony. May it not be caused through the Latin idea of supreme bliss? And this eternal expectation, this amassing of ornament on decay, this ever-abiding thought, is coincidental with the vanity preceding death? O squalid thought from the most morbid spleen, how can I devour thee and save my soul? Ever did it answer back, pay homage where due, the physician is the Lord of existence. This superstition of medicine, is it not the essence of cowardice, the agent of death? Strange, no one remembers being dead. Have you ever seen the sun? If you have, then you have seen nothing dead. In spite of you, different belief. Which is the more dead, you or this corpse? Which of you has the greater degree of consciousness? Judging by expression alone, which of you appears enjoying life most? May not this belief in death be the will that attempts death for your satisfaction, but can give you no more than sleep, decay, change, hell? This constant somnambulism is the unsatisfactory. You disbelieve in ghosts and God because you have not seen them. What? You have never seen the mocking ghosts of your beliefs, the laughing bedlam of your humility, or mammon, your grotesque ideas of self? Yea, your very faculties and your most courageous lies are gods. Who is the slayer of your gods but a god? There is no proof that you existed before. What an excuse. No one has returned to tell us. What a damning advocate. You are but what you were, somehow changed. You are the case prima facie that you are reincarnated to perhaps anything, perhaps are possible. Can you do differently to what you do? Never shall I tire of asserting that you constantly do differently. What is the ugliness that offends? Is it the vague knowledge that you will have to change your mind, that you are germinating what you contain? You are always remembering what you forgot. Today may be the day of reckoning, of believing by force what you disbelieved. Now, if today is yesterday in all but appearances, then tomorrow also is today the day of decay. Daily is this universe destroyed. That is why you are conscious. There is no life and death. Such ideas should be less than comic. There is no duality. You are conscious of the gay butterfly you observe and are conscious of being you. The butterfly is conscious of being itself, and as such, it is the consciousness as good as and the same as yours, i.e., of you being you. Therefore, this consciousness of you that you both feel is the same you. Ergo, you are one and the same, the mystery of mysteries and the most simple thing in the world to understand. How could you be conscious of what you are not? But you might believe differently. So if you hurt the butterfly, you hurt yourself, but you believe that you don't hurt yourself protects you from the hurt for a time. Belief gets tired and you are miserably hurt. Do what you will. Belief is ever its own inconsistency. Desire contains everything. Hence, you must believe in everything, if you believe at all. Belief seems to exclude common sense. There is no doubt about it. This consciousness of thee and me is the unwelcome but ever-ready torturer. Yet it need not be so, in any sense. Is it not a matter of fear? You are fearsome of entering a den of tigers. And I assure you, it is a matter of righteousness, inborn and cultured, whether you enter voluntarily or are chucked in, and whether you come out alive or not. Yet daily you fearlessly enter dens inhabited by more terrible creatures than tigers, and you come out unharmed? Why? The allegory. Great scientists are finding out the death-dealing properties of the microbes they discover we breathe, and which, according to their canons, should destroy. We should be already dead. Have faith. The canons of science are quite correct. They do not disappoint the doubt. Our greater familiarity, this impulse to knowledge, will certainly bring us the disease and death they give, and also give us in compensation their powers of destruction. For the destruction of whom? Things will be squared. Is this the value of the will? This will to power? How life-preserving, how furthering of discriminating selection. How pleasing, most noble explorers, O you scientists, go on discovering the bottomless pit. When you are sodden with science, the lightning will thunder out the murder. New hope will be born, new creatures for the circus. The conception of Godhead must ever evolve its inertia for transmutation to its very opposite, because it contains it. The master must be the painful learner of his stupidity. The idea of God ever means the forgetfulness of supremacy and godliness. So must be supplanted by fear, huh? There is no atheist. No one is free from autobiography. There is no fearless pleasurist. The conception is the absence of its indisputable reality within. When the conception is memorial in forgetfulness, it may be the chance of its reality for you. When the prayer you are always praying has transmuted to its blasphemy, you are attractive enough to be heard, your desire is gratified. What a somersault of humility. Whether God is projected as master by fear or as the dweller within by love gods, we are all the time. That is why divinity is always potential. Its constant generation, the eternal delay, is life. This envy of the master or creator, the ultimate hope to follow in manner, is also existence and the forfeiture of life. There is no scientific fact. It ever implies its opposite as equal fact. This is the fact. Then why trouble to prove anything a fact? This vain hope to prove finality is death itself, so why humbug the desire? You have proved by mathematics the sun to be so many millions of miles away from you. You will now improve its efficiency. Nature, that impulse to the antithesis of your truths, will early prove by mathematics, and whenever you like, that the sun does not exist at all. Or, if you wish it, will prove conclusively that the sun is millions of miles further away, or millions of miles nearer than you once thought. Most extraordinary thinker. These facts and many others are already known to the butterfly, the lice, the insects, and perhaps yourself. Whose senses are the more true, yours or the houseflies? You will eventually adopt their vision, their thoughts, and wisdom. You were such once. You are such now, but have not awakened them. You will be such again in power. Wondrous progress. Most meritorious accomplishments. Most merciless. Progress should be closely examined, and what you have gained by the convenience of science. A thought for perspective. You are always what you most wish. The prospective. Your desire is to live according to your desire, and this you are always realizing. Most noble sentiment. You are it, already the satisfied, the desireless, the real thing. You are drunk with it. There is no illusion but consciousness. This consciousness is ever the smiling monument commemorating whether you ever really enjoyed life. The God of the will is the command to obey. It's justice everyone fears. It is a sword, your desert for obedience. Will is the command to believe. Your will is what you have believed, actively willing the belief for you. You think when it wishes. Will is complication, the means of a means. Call this will free or not. Beyond will and belief is self-love. I know of no better name. It is free to believe what it desires. You are free to believe in nothing related to belief. The truth is not difficult to understand. The truth has no will. Will has no truth. Truth is will. Never believed it has no truth. Could be is the immediate certainty. This haunting sphinx teaches us the value of the will to anything. then there is no graver risk than absolute knowledge. If little is dangerous, what about omniscience? The almighty power has no accessories. Science is the accursed doubt of the possible, yea, of what does exist. You cannot conceive an impossibility. Nothing is impossible. You are the impossible. Doubt is delay, time, but how it punishes. Nothing is more true than anything else. What are you not? You ever answered truthfully. You tyrannize over yourself, so constantly forget what you remember. You resist sense objects and show resistance to the faculties by believing or not. These faculties are as numerous as the atoms you have not yet seen, and they are as endless as the number one. They come into life at will. You adopt a few at a time. Knowledge you speak through them. Did you but understand your grammar? Those you disown speak louder than your words. I would not believe the wisdom of the Almighty. Belief is ever its own tempter to believe differently. You cannot believe freedom, but you may be freed from belief. Neither can you believe the truth, but you need not compromise yourself. The way of life is not by means. These doctrines, my doctrines, even though they allow the self-appointed devotee to emulate my realization, may I ever blush. The man of sorrows is the teacher. I have taught. Would I teach myself or thee again? Not for a gift from heaven. Mastership equals learning, equals constant unlearning. Almighty is he who has not yet learnt, and mighty is the babe. It has only the power of assimilating. The most solestical of fools now asks, how can we escape the inevitable evolutions of conception as all is ever conceiving? My answer shall permit all means, all men, all conditions. Listen, O God that art, yet would be God. When the mind is nonplussed, capability to attempt the impossible becomes known. By that most simple state of neither, neither, the ego becomes the silent watcher and knows about it all. The why and how of desire is contained within the mystic state of neither, neither. And common sense proves it is the milk state most nutritious. Clownish that I am, yet all my ideas have come out of it, and my friend, all yours. But ever have I been a sluggard, an old sinner who would see others almighty before himself. New chapter, the death posture. And this, I saw one review and it said, pay attention here, this is a good one. Ideas of self in conflict cannot be slain. By resistance, they are a reality. No death or cunning has overcome them, but is their reinforcement of energy. The dead are born again and again, lie in the womb of conscious. By allowing maturity is to predicate decay, when by non-resistance is retrogression, to early simplicity and the passage to the original and unity without idea. From that idea is the formula of non-resistance, germinating, does not matter, please yourself. The conception of I am not must of necessity follow the conception of I am, because of its grammar, as surely in this world of sorrow, night follows day. The recognition of pain as such implies the idea of pleasure, and so with all ideas. By this duality, let him remember to laugh at all times. Recognize all things, resist nothing. Then there is no conflict, incompatibility, or compulsion as such. New chapter. Transgressing conception by a lucid symbol. Man implies woman. I transcend these by the hermaphrodite. This again implies a eunuch. All these conditions I transcend by a neither principle. Yet although a neither is vague, the fact of conceiving it proves its palpability and again implies a different neither. But the neither principle of those two is the state where the mind has passed beyond conception. It cannot be balanced, since it implies only itself. The I principle has reached the does not matter, need not be state, and is not related to form. Save and beyond it, there is no other. Therefore, it alone is complete and eternal. Therefore, it alone is true freedom and existence. Through it comes immunity from all sorrow. Therefore the spirit is ecstasy, renouncing everything by the means shown, take shelter in it. Surely it is the abode of Kia. This, having once been even symbolically reached, is our unconditional release from duality and time. Believe this to be true, the belief free from all ideas but pleasure. The karma, through law, displeasure, speedily exhausts itself. In that moment beyond time, a new law can become incarnate. Without the payment of sorrow, every wish gratified, he having become the gratifier by his law. The new law shall become the arcana of the mystic unbalanced. Does not matter, need not be. There is no necessitation. Please yourself is its creed. In that day there can be deliberation without subjection. What you wish to believe can be true. He is pleased by this imitation. The truth revealed to me by all systems of government, but is himself ungoverned. Kia, the supreme bliss. This, the glorious science of pleasing oneself by a new agreement. The art of self-love by recognition. The psychology of ecstasy by non-resistance. The ritual and doctrine. Lying on your back lazily, the body expressing the condition of yawning, suspiring while conceiving by smiling, this is the idea of the posture. Forgetting time with those things which were essential, reflecting their meaninglessness. The moment is beyond time and its virtue has happened. Standing on tiptoe with the arms rigid, bound behind by the hands, clasped and straining the utmost, the neck stretched, breathing deeply and spasmodically till giddy and sensation comes in gusts, gives exhaustion and capacity for the former. Gazing at your reflection till it is blurred and you know not the gazer. Close your eyes. This usually happens involuntarily. And visualize the light, always an X in curious evolutions, that is seen should be held onto, never letting go, till the effort is forgotten. This gives a feeling of immensity, which sees a small form, whose limit you cannot reach. This should be practiced before experiencing the foregoing. The emotion that is felt is the knowledge which tells you why. The death posture is its inevitability accelerated. Through it we can escape our unending delay by attachment. The ego is swept up as a leaf in a fierce gale. In the fleetness of the indeterminable, that which is always about to happen becomes its truth. Things that are self-evident are no longer obscure, as by his own will he pleases. Know this as the negation of all faith by living it, the end of duality of consciousness, of belief, a positive death state, all else as sleep, a negative state. It is the dead body of all we believe, and shall awake a dead corpse. The ego in subjection to law seeks inertia in sleep and death. Know the death posture and its reality in annihilation of law, the ascension from duality. In that day of tearless lamentation, the universe shall be reduced to ashes, but he escapes the judgment. And what of I, most unfortunate man? In that freedom there is no necessitation. What dare I say more? Rather would I commit much sin than compromise myself. There are many preliminary exercises as innumerable as sins, futile of themselves, but designative of the ultimate means. The death posture in the reduction of all conception, sin, to the neither, till the desire is contentment by pleasing yourself. By this and by no other are the inertia of belief. The restoration of the new sexuality and the ever original self-love in freedom are attained. The primordial vacuity or belief is not by the exercise of focusing the mind on a negation of all conceivable things. The identity of unity and duality, chaos and uniformity, etc., but by doing it now, not eventually. Perceive and feel without the necessity of an opposite, but by its relative. Perceive light without shadow by its own color as contrast. Through evoking the emotion of laughter at the time of ecstasy in union, and by practice till that emotion is untiring and subtle, the law or reaction is defeated by inclusion. Were he to enjoy 100 pleasures at a time, however much his ecstasy, he does not lose, but great increase takes place. Let him practice it daily, accordingly, till he arrives at the center of desire. He has imitated the great purpose. Like this, all emotions should find equipoise at the time of emanation, till they become one. Thus, by hindering belief and semen from conception, they become simple and cosmic. By its illumination, there is nothing that cannot be explained. Certainly, I find satisfaction in ecstasy. I have now told you a secret of great import. It was known to me in childhood, even by sedulously striving for a vacuity of belief. One is cosmic enough to dwell in the innermost of others and enjoy them. Among men, few know what they really believe or desire. Let him begin. Who would know by locating his belief till he sees his will? Existing as dual, they are identical in desire. By their duality, there is no control, for will and belief are ever at variance, and each would shape the other to its ends. In the issue, neither wins, as the joy is a covert of sorrow. Let him unite them. New chapter. The cloudy enemies born of stagnant self-hypnotism. Natural belief is the intuition that compels belief through that which is experienced, reacting, and dominating in turns. Everything has to associate itself through its definite emotion. Stimulated by those in harmony, those discordant lose cogency and inhibit. So by its own workings, belief is limited and determined for you. The majority of our actions can be traced back to a subconscious desire for freedom, in conflict with habit, and obedience to inherent fatalism which hangs on good and bad actions already committed in past existence, against a preserved morality and whose reaction gives expression as spontaneity, involuntariness, autonomy, the deliberate, etc., as the chance arises. The rest is due to a conflicting traditional moral doctrine that has become constitutional, partly adopt to govern and time this reaction. In its origin, an idea of what was then considered conveniently good and bad, to maximize pleasure by an arbitrary compromise of abstention and performed of desired fear, assimilated by the deceit of its divine origin. Its tenets are reward for obedience, punishment for transgression, both holding good for all time. This moral code is a dramatized burlesque of the conceptive faculty, but is never so perfect or simple in that it allows latitude for change in any sense, so becomes disassociated from evolution, etc. And this divorce loses any utility and of necessity for its own preservation, and the sympathy desired evolves contradictions or a complication to give relationship. Transgressing its commandments, dishonesty shows us its iniquity for our justification, or simultaneously we create an excuse or reason for the sin by a distortion of the moral code that allows some incongruity, usually retaining a few unforgivable sins and an unwritten law. This negative confession is a feigned rationalism that allows adventitious excuses, a process of self-deception to satisfy and summarily persuade yourself of righteousness. What one among us has any excuse but self-love? We do not create or confess a morality that is convenient, that lends itself to growth and remains simple, that allows transgression without excuse or punishment. It would be wise and common sense to do so, whatever the state of affairs in your mind. Nature eventually denies that which it confirms. Through permanent association with the same moral code, we help desire to transgress. Desire of those things denied, the more you restrict, the more you sin. But desire equally desires preservation of moral instinct, so desire is its own conflict, and weakly enough. Have no fear, the bull of earth has long had nothing to do with your unclean conscience. Your stagnant ideas of morality, the microbe alone would seem without fear. The complexity of the belief, know thyself. The nature of belief equals all possibilities, ultimately true by identification through culture to an idea of time. So what is not timely is not true, and what is not true, prognostication. Thought of one thing implies the possibility of another idea as contradicting but not disassociated. Belief is to make one more convincing. The condition of belief is the denial or limit imposed on the capability of the vitality. To believe at all as such is a concentration and schooling to exclude the implied by adopting a hypothesis or faith that reflects non-worryingly or deceitfully rationalizes the rejected. Truth is not the truth of formula. The center of belief is love for oneself, projecting environment for fulfillment, but allowing its distortion to simulate denial. An ambition to become ulterior to self-desire, but you cannot get further from the center. So one multiplies, believes, in order to be more unaware of the fundamental. Now, this refusal to believe what one believes, and exactly as one believes, is the first condition for all those who are in desire in any sense whatsoever. The man who is in love, perforce, becomes a liar, self-hypnotized by his morbid ornamentation. You know the results. You can only truly believe one thing, yet its implection is essential, as the truth seems to kill. So the imagined goes on forever. The imagination learns that the idea is its compulsion. To explain the why of belief or of anything else, we must transcend its schism. By entire consciousness in how the self loves is the means. As we imitate this law of duality in all our processes of believing, it is not so simple as it seems. Who has transgressed the law of conception? Who has no fear? Yet by this sin is the scientific of what determines the scetic. Gracefully compelling or expecting disappointment at the time of desire is the means of locating its deceit, a consciousness that alone gives the chance of inquiry. Beyond it is something arbitrary, the pauser, the ordainer of law, imitating it by reason, is but damning the consequences. Reason is belief. Belief is fear of one's capability, the faith that you are not even all the wonders of creation, let alone the possibility of being the creator. It is delay. Belief well earns the terrible hatred of the vitality. Belief is not freedom. Belief creates its necessary experience. Progress germinates in retrogression. Consider the reality is somewhere, and your belief may be too small for its habitation. O ye of much faith in God, merge into it by the worship of self. Ah, foolish man, worship the glorious in freedom. When death approaches, the faith in God and desire of woman will not save you. What are their use when withering and decay sets in, and the body is an object of disgust? And what is the use of knowledge and charity when reality is known? Unsheathe the sword of self. Ideas of the Almighty shall be constantly slain, and righteousness should be inquired into. Whosoever shall study his true nature a little, him does the self investigate with his extraordinary conduct. He can compel anything without offending. As the tendency of the most lustful ceases before publicity and death, so do morals and faith before the perfect bliss. A glimpse of the true is born of purity of love, when the desire is without fear, when it does not desire possession, when the thought is fulfilled by vision. The fire that is all pleasure is loosed at his will. He is attraction, the cynosure of women. When the believing principle is devoid of faith, as sterile of possessing ideas of God, he is indestructible. Only when there is no fear in any form is there realization of identity with reality, freedom. For them there is no danger in negligence, there being no discrimination. For him who is conscious of the slightest differentiation, there is fear. So long as there is perception of self, reproach, or conscience, there is pain germinating. There is no freedom. He who believes anything he perceives or imagines falls into sin. By believing without feeling perturbation, forgetting ideas of external and internal, he regards everything as self, and is the consciousness of non-resistance, has no horizon, i.e. he is free. On seeing the star-lit eyes and rosebud mouths, the breasts and loins of beautiful women, you become lovingly attached. But if you fear, consider constantly that they're merely the charred flesh and bones of yourself after the torture. The space between the eternal and self, is it not a moral doctrine? By believing all one believes, and sedulously, without anxiety, not believing, by the neither process, the principle becomes simple and cosmic enough to include what you are always desiring, and you are free to believe what is impossible. The desire is so mighty, it asks no permission and suffers no consequences but the ecstasy of its possession. Against it nothing can prevail, it burns up. As celluloid cast into the furnace, the old folly of promising things on behalf of an imagined other. At hand is the freedom of heaven, the way, the truth, and the light, and none dares say this of himself but by me. In truth, I alone am self. My will unconditioned is magical. Those who have lived much in their nature will in some degree be familiar with such a sensation, poor though it be. New chapter. Preface to self-love. Let us be honest. Thou art that, supreme in freedom, most desirable, beyond desire, untouched by the six stupefiers. The sexuality labors, so death may harvest by desire. The elusive fancies of the senses are dangerous because of the righteousness you have learned to obey and control them by. Hellfire burns because you conceived, and will cease to hurt when you identify the ego with all the possibilities of its qualities by believing as the neither process. You are fire, yet you are scorched because you have willed belief. Differently or not makes no difference. The cycle of belief goes on and always obliges. So one day you must believe differently and the fire will no longer hurt. You are saved. There are other means of hurting you. In that state which is not, there is no consciousness in any sense that thou art that, Kia, which is superb. Beyond the range of definition, there is no temptation of freedom. It was not the cause of evolution, hence it is beyond time. Consciousness or unconsciousness, everything or nothingness, etc. This I know through the neither, which is automatically beyond every conception, ever free in every sense. Perhaps it may not be obscured by continual afterthought and vaguely felt through the hand of innocence, but whoever understands such simple meanings, it is never perceived, being the imperceptible ecstasy of the neither, ever present but hidden by exhaustion through the cycle of unity. The certainty of consciousness is always the uncertainty of the perceived or experienced in whatever state it may be. The constant doubt, spelling fear, pain, decay, and the like, the cause of evolution, the eternal incompletion. Oh, desire, listen. In point of virulence, spiritual desire is as fatal as the sensuous. Aspiration towards a supreme is a network of deadly desires because of cowardice within. Ergo, some unsatisfied wisdom awaiting exploitation to suffer its evolutions. There is no final wisdom. There is no final desire. How can anything end? Has today ever ended? These things are endless. A person desires things of this world, but where is the difference in desiring the supreme bliss? Which is the more selfish? Which is nearer you? Which pleases the Creator more? Are you certain of the Creator's will, and are you sure of your own desire? Are you the Creator or just yourself, as you fondly imagine your contents? All these desires, however mighty, you will one day incarnate, yea, photograph. These things already exist. Very soon you will have spiritual photographs, unfaked, but not by the camera you use at present. The pioneer is ever the old fool, and afterthought. Some spirits are already photographed, the microbes. Are you ever free of desideratum? Belief is eternal desire. Desire is its own cruelty, the fettering of the hand to labor in some world unknown. Nothing is always dead, and no thought dies. The master becomes the slave. The position is alternate. You have long believed this. It is in the flesh of your generations with the most merciless judge. The scorn of all your forms, or the inversion of your values. This constant curse and blasphemy is not the relief more in the knowledge of the nascent, unrelenting taskmaster? Are not our bodies all smeared with its blood? Has not the world ever been bloody? Are not our pleasures but rest to drink the blood of slaughter? O determined liars, ye know not yet the lie? It may be truth. The ego is desire, so everything is ultimately desired and undesirable. Desire is ever a preliminary forecast of terrible dissatisfaction, hidden by its ever-present vainglory. The millennium will come and quickly go. Men will be greater than the gods they ever conceived. There will be greater dissatisfaction. You are ever what you were, but you may be so in a different form. A person or a nation, however vain or content, falls immediately into unknown and inevitable desire, consuming him little by little through those conditions, any condition. The mind becomes firm in desire by desire as devotion. But when realized, is it then eternally desirable? Or even for a period of 1,000,000 years? In heaven shall be fettered thy foot. Therefore, remove the conception that desire is pure or impure or has completion. Remove it by the neither, neither. Even whether the desire is for the exhaustion of desire by the neither, neither, or for realization in a wife, it is desire, its unending evolution. Therefore, remove desire in any form by the neither, neither. Remove the illusion that there is spirit and not spirit. This idea has never given beneficial results. Remove all conceptions by the same means. So long as the notion remains that there is compulsory bondage in this world, or even in dreams there is such bondage. Remove the conception of freedom and bondage in any world or state by meditation on freedom, in freedom by the neither, neither. For this we know vampirism is quite well proven enough, even by the strong presumption that whenever blood-sucking is done, it is done by vampire bats, apart from the probability of it being done by a divine or human agency. Therefore, Kia-eyes desire by the neither, neither, the most excellent formula, far beyond contentment, the all-embracing vacuum which reduces all to common sense and upon which this universe rests. Therefore, believe nothing in this book by the neither, neither, and dispel the conception of the neither, neither by the neither, neither, and believe it is not necessary, or the conclusion of pleasing yourself, because it need not be, does not matter. One believes this all the time as the truth of the will, not the thing believed, since the means to an end means evolution to the endless means. Self-love as a moral doctrine and virtue. The criterion of action is freedom of movement, timeliness of expression, pleasuring. The value of a moral doctrine is in its freedom for transgression. Simplicity I hold most precious. Are not the most simple things in the world the most perfect, pure, innocent, and their properties the most wonderful? Hence, it is the source of wisdom. Wisdom is exactly happiness. In love pleasuring myself, necessarily without excuse. Is this not perfection? Actions would appear unfathomable and incomprehensible did they exhibit conformity to the great purpose. There are few who can attain this, who has no shame. Ecstasy and satisfaction is the great purpose. Freedom from the necessity of law, realization by the very wish, is the ultimate goal. Law depends on two. Two is uberty, millions. Law is complicated. The second did not agitate. The first did not determine, nor was it compelled or proffered. Chance in sport is not prophecy. By it we have gained proficiency, sufficient to determine. Prepare for the eternal. Revert to simplicity, and you are free. What man can give without impulse? Only he who has complete sexuality. The highest goodness is self-nourishment. What are we going to include as self? Perfect charity acquires, hence it benefits all things by not giving. What man can have faith without fear? Only he who has no duty to perform. When faith perishes, duty to moral doctrines perishes. We are without sin and endure forever in all devouring love. What man can know with certainty? Only he who has effaced the necessity of learning. When teachers fall out, what is the use of learning from them? The wise are not contentious and have no dogma to expound, rather are they silent as a newborn babe in feeding. What teacher can show the source of wisdom? It is because I know without learning. I know the source and can convey lessons without teaching. Knowledge is but the excrement of experience, its own repetition. The true teacher implants no knowledge, but shows him his own superabundance. Keeping his vision clear, he directs or leads him as a child to the essential. Having shown him the source of wisdom, he retires before gratitude or sentiment sets in, leaving him to fertilize as he wishes. Is not this the way of heaven? He who trusts to his natural fund of genius has no knowledge of its extent and accomplishes with ease, but directly he doubts. Ignorance obsesses him. Doubt fertilizes in the virgin soil. He is no longer fearless, but a coward to difficulties. His very learning is fear. The difference between genius and ignorance is a degree of fear. The beginning of wisdom is fear of forethought, the reception of knowledge in learning. Children doubt and abhor learning. Why? Even the affection of courage results in cleverness. The difference between good and evil is a matter of profundity. Which is nearer you, self-love and its immorality, or love and morals? Not conscious of desert, the compeer of heaven, and constant happiness and wisdom is the capacity of direction. From self-glorification, from self-exaltation, we rise superior to the incapacity of disquieting fear, the ridiculer to destruction of humility in repentance. This self-love does not give, but is glad to receive, is the genuine opportunity for freedom from covetousness, from the militant amusement of heaven. He who subordinates animal instincts to reason quickly loses control. Are not the animals we see in circuses trained by torture? And do not the animals reared in love slay their master? The wise embraces and nourishes all things, but does not act as master. Only when passions are ruled by foreign environment are they dangers. Control is by leaving things to work out their own salvation. Directly we interfere, we become identified with and subject to their desire. When the ego sees self-love, there is peace. It becomes the seer. Directly we desire, we have lost all. We are what we desire. Therefore, we never obtain. Desire nothing, and there is nothing that you shall not realize. Desire is for completion, the inherent emotion that it is all happiness, all wisdom, in constant harmony. But directly we believe, we are liars. and become identified with pain, yet pain and pleasure are one and the same. Therefore, believe nothing, and you will have reverted to a simplicity which childhood has not yet attained. The fool asks how, as we must believe in pleasure and pain. Now, if we could suffer them simultaneously, pain and pleasure, and hold fast to a principle that ascends, that allows the ego vibration above them, should we not have reached the ecstasy? Now the belief is the ego, yet separates it from heaven as your body separates you from another's. Therefore, by retaining the belief in the not necessity when conceiving, the ego is free. The emotion of laughter is exhaustion, the early suffering, hence by making this emotion a mental state at the time of unity, he unites pain and pleasure, suffers them simultaneously, and by the not necessity of his belief, his conception transcends this world and reaches the absolute ecstasy. There is no place where pain or death can enter. The idea of God is the primordial sin. All religions are evil. Self-love is its own law, which may be broken with impunity, being the only energy that is not servile, serving its ever-ready purpose. Surely it is all that is left us that has no sin and is free. Verily, it is the only thing we dare be conscious of. He that truly pleases himself is without virtue, and shall satisfy all men. Hate, jealousy, murder, etc. are conditions of love, even as virtue, greed, selfishness, suicide, etc. are conditions or not pleasing oneself. There is no sin more sickening than love, for it is the very essence of covetousness and the mother of all sin. Hence it has the most devotees. Self-love only is pure and without a congregation. He that entirely loves himself induces self-love only. In this he is inexorable, but does not offend like other men. He is akin to the great purpose, his actions explained for him. Good seen of his evil without knowing, everyone satisfied with his will. Do not heaven and earth unite daily in spontaneous homage to this will of self-love? No man can show greater self-love than by giving up all he believes. Why do I value this self-love before all else? Is it not because I may be free to believe in evil, but have no thought that anything can do me injury? All is self-love. The people of the world, if they only knew, are its devotees. My new law is the great clue to life. If the world could understand this, the rotten fabric discarded, they would diligently follow the way in their own hearts. There would be no further desire for unity. Try and imagine what that implies. May the idea of God perish, and with it women. Have they not both made me appear clownish? Let there be no mistake. Purity and innocence is simplicity. Happiness is wisdom. What is simple has no duality. New chapter. The doctrine of eternal self-love. Now, self-love is explained. It is the completion of belief. The self is the neither, nothing omitted, indissoluble, beyond proposition. Disassociation of conception by its own invincible love is the only true, safe, and free. The desire, will, and belief ceasing to exist as separate. Attraction, repulsion, and control self-contained. They become the original unity, inert in pleasure. There is no duality. There is no desire for unity. At that time, it, the dual principle, rests in its unmodified state. The belief no longer subject to conception by conceiving self as such by loving. At other times, it creates a center, becomes its environment, identified with its ramifications, conception created, subjection to law and the insatiable desire for unity, inasmuch as the duality is unity. Servitude to law is the hatred of heaven. Self-love only is the eternal all-pleasing by meditation on this engulfant self, which is mystic joyousness. At this time of bliss, he is punctual to his imagination. and that day what happiness is his, a lusty innocent beyond sin without hurt, balanced by an emotion, a refraction of his ecstasy, is all that he is conscious of as external. He, the self-effulgent, lightens in the ego, beyond law and the guest at the feast of the supersensualists. He has power over life and death. Save by this, he is not beyond self-reproach. Verily, he has loosed all the trouble of the world, the murder from the lightning. Self-love, preventing the mind from concentration, is identity without form, is no thought as such. Law and external influences contained do not affect. When that giving up all belief reflects only its meaning, then there is purity of vision, innocence of touch, ergo self-love. Verily, verily, men are born, suffer and die through their belief. Ejaculation is death. Self-love is preservation and life. Man, to invoke pleasure in his choice, subtracts from desire. His desire is partial desire, becomes subduple conflict. Never is his energy full. Having no true focus, he is deceived in his strength and attains a pure measure of pleasure from his body. In success, how heavy is his sentence? Pleasure becomes the illusion. Through dire necessity, his means, he is bound to its cause and effect, and becomes a holocaust on the pyre of sentiment. This self-love is the only full energy, all else a wrapping of dissatisfaction, the hypothesis of desires which obscures. Man, in the misery of his illusions and unsatisfied desires, wings his flight to different religions and doctrines, seeks redeception, a hypnotic, a palliative, from which he suffers fresh miseries in exhaustion. The terms of the cure are new illusions, greater entanglement, more stagnant environment. Having studied all ways and means to pleasure and pondered over them well again and again, this self-love has been found by me to be the only free, true and full one, nothing more sane, pure and complete. There is no deceit. When by this all experience certainly is known, everything sublimely beautiful and exceedingly amiable, where is the necessity of other means? Like the drink to the drunkard, everything should be sacrificed for it. This self-love is now declared by me the means of evolving millions of ideas for pleasure without love, or its synonyms, self-reproach, sickness, old age, and death, the symposium of self and love. O wise man, please thyself. New chapter. The complete ritual and doctrine of magic, ecstasy and self-love, the obsession. My dearest, I will now explain the only safe and true formula, the destroyer of the darkness of the world, the most secret among all secrets. Let it be secret to him who would attain. Let it cover any period of time, depending on his conception. There is no qualification, nor ritual or ceremony, his very existence symbolizing all that is necessary to perfection. Most emphatically, there is no need of repetition or feeble imitation. You are alive. Magic, the reduction of properties to simplicity, making them transmutable to utilize them afresh by direction, without capitalization, bearing fruit many times. No deliberation over consciousness and concentration to be its resistance, and sycophancy the ultimate acquirement of idiocy. Whether for his own pleasure or power, the fulfillment of desire is his purpose. He would terminate this by magic. Let him wait for a desire analogous in intensity. He then sacrifices this desire or its fulfillment to the initial desire. By this it becomes organic, the quantum. He has not attained freedom from law. Hence, let him wait for a belief to be subtracted, that period when disillusionment has taken place. Verily, disappointment is his chance. This free entity of belief and his desire are united to his purpose by the use of sigils or sacred letters. By projecting the consciousness into one part, sensation not being manifold becomes intensified. By the abstention of desire, except in the object, this is attained. At the psychological time, this determines itself. By non-resistance, involuntary thought and action, worry and apprehension of non-fulfillment being transient find no permanent abode. He desires everything. Anxiety defeats the purpose. It retains and exposes the desire. Conscious desire is non-attractive. The mind, quiet and focused, undisturbed by external images, does not disturb the sense impressions. There is no hallucination. It would end in imaginative fulfillment, but magnifies the existing desire and joins it to the object in secret, casting the shadow. The ego, not being totally oblivious, let him retain only and visualize the sigil form. It is his chalice, the means of vacuity and incarnation. By the deliberation of an analogous emotion at that time, he deputizes the law, reaction. Miraculous is he, balance not known in this world, imitated, attained. All other consciousness annulled with safety, the vehicle strong enough for the ecstasy. He is beyond hurt. Now let him imagine a union takes place between himself, the mystic union of the ego and absolute. The nectar emitted, let him drink slowly again and again. After this astonishing experience, his passion is incomparable. There is nothing in this world he will desire unless he wills. That is why people do not understand me. The ecstasy in its emotion is omnigenous. Know it as the nectar of life, the syllabub of sun and moon. Verily, he steals the fire from heaven, the greatest act of bravery in the world. Deliberation, egotized, except in the refraction of the ecstasy, is exposure and death, becoming a presiding obsession, control having been given to a prior experience, and is overconscious of that through its momentarily finding freedom from its native law, thus generating double personality, insanity. By these means, there is no desire beyond fulfillment, no accomplishment too wonderful, depending on the amount of free belief. Men of small pleasure and enterprise, oblivious of your purpose, fault-finding, avaricious, sinful, who cannot live without women or enjoy without pain, fearsome, inconstant, diseased and withered, dependent, cruel, deceived, and liars, the worst of men. No, oh, Lord, oh, beloved self, I have now told you of that most secret tavern, where passion goes when youth has gone, where any man may drink of the nectar of all beneficent and gratuitous ecstasy, the most pleasurable nourishment that harms no one. New chapter. Note on the difference of magical obsession, genius, and insanity. Magical obsession is that state when the mind is illuminated by subconscious activity evoked voluntarily by formula at our own time, etc., for inspiration. It is the condition of genius. Other obsession is the blind leading the blind, caused by quietism known as mediumism, and opening out of the ego to what is called any external influence, elementals, or disembodied energy. A transmuted consciousness that is a resistance to true subconscious activity. It is being a voluntary insanity, a somnambulation of the ego with no form or control to guide it. Hence, its emanations are stupid in suggestion or memories of childhood. Obsession, known as or related to insanity, is an experience that is disassociated from becoming permanently attached to the subconscious, not having exhausted or completed itself by realization. Depending on its degree of intensity and resistance shown at some time or another, the ego has or has not knowledge of the obsession. Always is its expression autonomous, divorced from personal control, power or direction, and timing. Concentration determines disassociation. Enthusiasm for one object seeking completion by identification sacrifices all else or deliberately forgets. Its separation from the ego, it becomes equal or more in bulk than the rest of the consciousness, causes subdivision or double personality, is caused by its own intensity or by shock of resistance determined by some incompatibility of the desired or desire. Concentration is dissatisfied desire, a conflict that can never be satisfied because of its means. When the ego, not appearing to have or not knowing the means of fulfillment, seeks its repudiation, repression, imaginative fulfillment, or transmutation to escape its worry. None of these is the desires or obsession's annihilation, but its separation or concealment from the rest of the ego, its premature subconscious existence. It is held there only when some form of resistance is active. When resistance is dormant, control is given to the presiding obsession, allowing its incarnation in and swamping of the ego, which has to live and perform its emotional experience. Disease and insanity, all disease is insanity, is caused when the disembodied energy has no vital function. It is this energy which utilized for the visualization of Sigils. New chapter. Sigils, the psychology of believing. If the supreme belief remains unknown, believing is fruitless. If the truth has not yet been ascertained, the study of knowledge is unproductive. Even if they were known, their study is useless. We are not the object by the perception, but by becoming it. Closing the gateways of sense is no help. Verily, I will make common sense the foundation of my teaching. Otherwise, how can I convey my meaning to the deaf, vision to the blind, and my emotion to the dead? In a labyrinth of metaphor and words, intuition is lost. Therefore, without their effort, must be learned the truth about oneself from him who alone knows the truth, yourself. Of what use the wisdom of virginity to him who has been raped by the seducer, ignorance? Of what use sciences of any knowledge except as medicine? Hidden treasure does not come at the word, nor by digging with your hands in the main road. Even with the proper implements and accurate knowledge of place, etc., may be but the acquisition of what you possessed long ago. There is a great doubt as to whether it is hidden, except by the strata of your experience and atmospheres of your belief. The pertinent question now proposed by thee should be asked by those desirous of some measure of genius. My answer, like the mighty germ, is in agreement with the universe, simple and full of deep import, and for a time extremely objectionable to your ideas of good and beauty. Listen attentively, O aspirant, all agog for information, to my answer, for by living the meaning thou shalt truly be freed from the bondage of constitutional ignorance. Thou must live it thyself. I cannot live it for thee. The chief cause of genius is realization, or I, by an emotion that allows the lightning assimilation of what is perceived. This emotion is immoral in that it allows free association of knowledge without the accessories of belief. Its condition is therefore ignorance of I am and I am not, with absent-mindedness as believing. Its most excellent state is the neither, the free or atmospheric I. You remember in your youth the thought that this world is a curious place, in the emotion when you felt why, as to whether this life is a reasonable development. What was the cause of this and of your summarily dismissing it from your mind? Again, the feeling that the most commonplace object is magnificently strange, and the vague emotion of correlation between the incompatible. Exhaustive arguments often see this, but always excuse it. The curiosity and shock with a more intimate association with the wonders of creation. What is it that prevents you from following investigation into what exactly is surprise, etc. What is the cause of your believing more in God than a dog fight? Yet you fear dogs more than you fear God. Where is the difference between yourself choked with disquieting piety and the innocence of a babe? Perhaps in these is the cause of ignorance. Belief is the fall from the absolute. What are you going to believe? Truth seeks its own negation. Different aspects are not the truth, nor are they necessary to truth. Of its emanations, which are you to strangle at birth? Are you illegitimate? You believe in right and wrong. What punishment will you determine? Can you escape the driving must? Who can escape boredom without change? Who remains single and content? What man among you is large and free enough to encompass his self? Your belief obfuscates lineage. Ambition is smallness. Your customed environment. Remember, time is an unstudied imagination of the experienced. What may be called the early experience was its completion. So of learning there is no finis. What you learn tomorrow is determined by what you have done, the accomplished lesson of yesterday. Never learning today what you can do tomorrow is called loss, but is theft of time, wholesomeness, and rejuvenance. Repeat this delay again and again till you arrive at spontaneity, chance in safety. The pursuit of learning, believing, is the grotesque incubator of stupidity. If you could truly believe, we should realize the virtue of it. We are not free to believe, however much we so desire, having conflicting ideas to first exhaust. Sigils are the art of believing, my invention for making belief organic, ergo true belief. When by the wish to believe, it is the necessity incompatible with an existing belief and is not realized through the inhibition of the organic belief, the negation of the wish, faith moves no mountains, not till it has removed itself. Supposing I wish to be great, is not counting that I am, to have faith and believe that I am, does not make me great even where I to keep up the pretense to the end. See, there's parts missing here. There's some parts missing. But anyway, I'm going to keep reading. It being ceremonial insincerity, the affirmation of my incapacity, I am incapable, because that is the true belief and organic. To believe differently is but affectation. Therefore, the imagination or faith that I am great is a superficial belief. The reaction and denial caused by the troublesome effervescence of the organic incapacity. Denial or faith does not change or annihilate it, but it is reinforcement and preservation. Therefore, belief to be true must be organic and subconscious. The desire to be great can only become organic at a time of vacuity, and by giving it sigil form. When consciousness of the sigil form any time but the magical, it should be repressed, a deliberate striving to forget it. By this, it is active and dominates at the unconscious period. Its form nourishes and allows it to become attached to the subconscious and become organic. That accomplished, is it reality and realization. He becomes his concept of greatness. So belief becomes true and vital by striving against it in consciousness and by giving it form, not by the striving of faith. Belief exhausts itself by confession and non-resistance, i.e. consciousness. Belief not to believe, and in degree you will obtain its existence. Timeliness, depending on your morality, give to the poor. If the ambitious only knew, it is as difficult to become incapable as it is to become great. They are mutual as accomplishments and equally satisfied. New chapter. The subconscious. All geniuses have active subconsciousness, and the less they are aware of the fact, the greater their accomplishments. The subconsciousness is exploited by desire reaching it. So consciousness should not contain the great desire once the ego has wished. and should be filled with an affected ambition for something different, not vice versa. The inevitable penalty of cowardice lurking somewhere, surely not an inglorious deceit. Genius, like heroism, is a matter of bravery. You have to forget fear or incapacity somehow. Hence, its expression is always spontaneous. How simple it is to acquire genius. You know the means. Who will take the plunge? The learning of how is the eternal why unanswered. A genius is such because he does not know how or why. The storehouse of memories with an ever open door. Know the subconscious to be an epitome of all experience and wisdom, past incarnations as men, animals, birds, vegetable life, etc., etc. Everything that exists has and ever will exist, each being a stratum in the order of evolution. Naturally, then, the lower we probe into these strata, the earlier will be the forms of life we arrive at. The last is the almighty simplicity. And if we succeed in awakening them, we shall gain their properties, and our accomplishment will correspond. They, being experiences long past, must be evoked by extremely vague suggestion, which can only operate when the mind is unusually quiet or simple. To have their wisdom does not mean the necessity of their bodies. The body modifies in relation to means. We travel faster than the hunting leopard, but do not have its body. When it is the means, it changes accordingly. Now, if we observe nature, the early forms of life are wonderful in their properties, adaptability, etc., their strength enormous, and some are indestructible. No matter what the desire is, it always is its accomplishment. A microbe has the power to destroy the world, and certainly would if it took an interest in us. If you were to dismember its limbs, the mutilated part would regrow, etc. So, by evoking and becoming obsessed or illuminated by these existences, we gain their magical properties or the knowledge of their attainment. This is what already happens. Everything happens at all times, though exceedingly slowly. In striving for knowledge, we repel it. The mind works best on a simple diet, meaning I should probably stop reading this book. The law of evolution is retrogression of function, governing progression of attainment, i.e., the more wonderful our attainments, the lower in the scale of life that governs them. Our knowledge of flight is determined by that desire causing the activity of our bird, etc., karmas. Directly our desire reaches the stratum belonging to those existences that can fly without wings, so shall we fly without machines. This subconscious activity is the capacity, the knowledge. All other we acquire is of a negative or manurial value. The virtue of learning and acquiring knowledge by the ordinary means is in its worry and disappointment of that degree which causes exhaustion. By that, the desire might accidentally reach the real abode of knowledge, i.e., the subconscious. Inspiration is always at a void moment, and most great discoveries accidental, usually brought about by exhaustion of the mind. My formula and sigils for subconscious activity are the means of inspiration, capacity or genius, and the means of accelerating evolution, an economy of energy and method of learning by enjoyment. A bat first grew wings, and of the proper kind, by its desire being organic enough to reach the subconsciousness. If its desire to fly had been conscious, it would have had to wait till it could have done so by the same means as ourselves, i.e., by machinery. All genius has an hypothesis, usually natural, in the form of a hobby, which serves to restrain and occupy the conscious mind, to prevent its interference with spontaneous expression. The great Leonardo's mathematics, etc., serve to deceive him as such an hypothesis and as sigils. Our lives are full of the symbolism of those predominating karmas we are governed by. All ornament, useless dress, etc. are such. They please people because they feel the identification. and the means of locating them, karmas. The symbolism of crowning a man king is that he, resembling God on earth, has reached the lowest strata of his subconsciousness, those one-cell organisms, if you like, which predominate as governing his functions. Of course, those crowned king are never such. They symbolize the hope, not the reality. Hence, the floral nature of and precious stones in design of the crown relate to first principles. He is king who has reached the dual principle in its simplicity, the first experience, which is all experience. He has no need of crowns and kingdoms. By sigils and the acquirement of vacuity, any past incarnation, experience, etc., can be summoned to consciousness. It may even happen in sleep in the form of dreams, but this means is very difficult. Total vacuity is difficult and unsafe for those governed by morality complexes, i.e., whose belief is not entirely self-love. Hence, this desideratum of sigils, etc. Know all ritual, ceremony, conditions as arbitrary. You have yourself to please. A hindrance and confusion. Their origin was for amusement, later for the purpose of deceiving others from knowing the truth and inducing ignorance. And as always happens, their high priests were the more deceived themselves. He who deceives another deceives himself much more. Therefore, know the charlatans by their love of rich robes, ceremony, ritual, magical retirements, absurd conditions, and other stupidity too numerous to relate. Their entire doctrine a boastful display, a cowardice hungering for notoriety, their standard everything unnecessary, their certain failure assured. Hence, it is that those with some natural ability quickly lose it by their teaching. They can only dogmatize, implant, and multiply that which is entirely superficial. Were I a teacher, I should not act as master, as knowing more, the pupil could lay no claim to discipleship. Assimilating slowly, he would not be conscious of his learning. He would not repeat the vital mistake. Without fear, he would accomplish with ease. The only teaching possible is to show a man how to learn from his own wisdom and to utilize his ignorance and mistakes, not by obscuring his vision and intention by righteousness. New chapter. Sigils, belief with protection, magical obsession. I will now explain their creation and use. There is no difficulty about it, how pure and clear it all is. Out of love for my foolish devotees, I invented it. All desire, whether for pleasure, knowledge, or power, that cannot find natural expression, can by sigils and their formula find fulfillment from the subconsciousness. Sigils are the means of guiding and uniting the partially free belief with an organic desire, its carriage and retention, till its purpose served in the subconscious self and its means of reincarnation in the ego. All thought can be expressed by form in true relation. Sigils are monograms of thought for the government of energy. All heraldry, crests, monograms are sigils, and the karmas they govern. Relating to karma, a mathematical means of symbolizing desire and giving it form that has the virtue of preventing any thought and association on that particular desire at the magical time, escaping the detection of the ego, so that it does not restrain or attach such desire to its own transitory images, memories, and worries, but allows its free passage to the subconscious. Sigils are made by combining the letters of the alphabet simplified. Illustration, the word woman in sigil form would be, and then I will show this on the screen, the word tiger, etc., etc. The idea being to obtain a simple form which can be easily visualized at will and has not too much pictorial relation to the desire. The true method has a much greater virtue which cannot be explained briefly, being the secret of thought form as degrees of suggestion and what exactly is in a name. We have now agreed as to how a sigil is made and what virtue it has. Verily, what a person believes by sigils is the truth and is always fulfilled. This system of sigils is believed by taking it up as a hobby at a time of great disappointment or sorrow. By sigils I have endowed fools with wisdom, made the wise fools, giving health to the sick and weak, disease to the strong, etc. Now, if for some purpose you wanted the strength of a tiger, you would make a sentence such as, "This is my wish to obtain the strength of a tiger." Sigilized, this would be, "This is my wish," and he shows a sigil. There's a big subnote, and I'm going to read this, that I'm going to back it up here. There are 6 methods of sigils employed in this book, each corresponding to different strata. The one shown here is illustrative and the fundamental idea of them all, from which anyone can evolve his own system. Conditions, etc., or necessity subsequently evolve themselves. Also, a person has more power of creation and originality with a limited means of expression. Editor's note. These examples of sigils were recreated digitally for this edition. As such, they may vary slightly in appearance from earlier editions, though their shape has been preserved. Okay, here we go. Continuing on. This is my wish, to obtain the strength of a tiger combined as one sigil. Ah, cool. So he shows it pulling all together. Now, by virtue of this sigil, you are able to send your desire into the subconscious, which contains all strength. That having happened, it is the desire's realization by the manifestation of the knowledge or power necessary. First, all consciousness, except of the sigil, has to be annulled. Do not confuse this with concentration. You simply conceive the sigil any moment you begin to think. Vacuity is obtained by exhausting the mind and body by some means or another. A personal or traditional means serves equally well. Depending on temperament, choose the most pleasant. These should be held in favor: mantras and posture, women and wine, tennis and the playing of patience, or by walking and concentration on the sigil, etc., etc. None is necessary to him who has, even symbolically, for a moment by the neither, conquered the dual principle, conception. His ego is free from gravity. If the sigil is made an obsession by continual apprehension, its realization may happen at any moment in the form of inspiration. This is done by reverting the mind to the sigil when one is extremely worried. The time of exhaustion is the time of fulfillment. At the time of exhaustion or vacuity, retain only one and visualize the sigil form. Eventually it becomes vague, then vanishes, and success is assured. By the ego conceiving only the sigil and not being able to conceive anything from it, all energy is focused through it. The desire for identification carries it to the corresponding subconscious stratum, its destination. The sigil, being a vehicle, serves the purpose of protecting consciousness from the direct manifestation of the consciously unacknowledged obsession. Conflict is avoided with any incompatible ideas, and neither gains separate personality. The obsession, is either gradually assimilated and becomes organic, or returns to its original abode, its purpose of illumination served. Hence, the mind, by sigils, depending upon the intensity of desire, is illuminated or obsessed, knowledge or power, from that particular karma, the subconscious stratum, a particular existence and knowledge gained by it, relative to the desire, but not from memory or experience which was recent. Knowledge is obtained by the sensation resulting from the unity of the desire and karma, power by its actual vitalization and resurrection. This knowledge leaves its stratum in company with the energy or desire returning to the ego. It escapes the ego's resistance by associating with similar images. memories, or experiences relative received in this life that the mind contains and crystallizes itself by their symbolism. Hence, most illumination is symbolic and must be subsequently translated. New chapter on myself. Conceiving, thou hast given no sign of life. In claiming thee, a labor of creating value is nothing worth holding, nothing satisfying. The realization of thy inhibition all. By self-effacement would seem reality. This self, how empty, how prolific of incompleteness. In self-denial, its stimulation to simulate reality more and more comes out. These ugly mists of illusion are parental, the cause of heaven's hatred. That is why I fear to believe in God. Subordination to an attribute, an idea of self, is not freedom of love. Probably Almighty is he who is unconscious of the idea of God. Now may the fierceness of my unity be thy silence, and for me no longer a query or labor to espouse my doubt. Yet mankind forever doubts, quirks, and for every pleasure pays, till he becomes millionary. The punishment shall fit the appraisement of his capitalization. There is that fear. The rich in dross, to cheat his conscience, affects humility, speaks of himself in the day of weary waiting and watching, the restless striving, the imprisonment, the rack, the horrors of every conceivable torture. When he becomes accustomed, loses reality, and no longer deterred, will he then create God and miseries afresh? O folly of the world, deny thy faith, renounce this bloody, sceptered God, and confess. The completion of folly is the beginning of childhood, but of knowledge there is no end. It was the straying that found the path direct. From childhood I have never denied my invincible purpose. O silent watcher, thou sleepless eye of the universe, watch over the beginning of all my ideas. The misery of the world would seem eternal, whilst I, in the midst, like an infant not yet smiling, am impervious in purity of self-love. But I dare not claim its service. I am in eternal want of realization, poor though I be. My contentment is beyond your understanding. An opinionist, I fear to advocate an argument or comprise myself by believing my own doctrines as such. May they ever be their own expurgers. Fearsome of knowledge, may my belief be its emptiness, yea, ignorance. From my daring to believe religions, doctrines, creeds, so shall I hold the jewel of truth. So cautious am I, simultaneously do I deny that which I affirm, and hold fast to the not necessity, by paradox superseded without antecedent. Spontaneous I revert to the absolute. Watch my intoxication and control the reaction of karma. How easy is the way! It would seem as though nothing should be said, but all unsaid. May my words be few and pregnant. Alas, the futility of the idea of God has not yet reached its limit. All men liars appear striving for insanity as its climax. While I alone, as one prematurely aged, reason tottering on its throne, remains sane in positive chastity, confessing no conscience, no morals, a virgin in singleness of purpose. And then it looks like it's notes. Now, there was one thing that he wrote. I don't know who wrote this. So this particular document, it looks like the original, the beginning part was the book, and then many pages of notes in the back, because this is meant for introspection, obviously. Okay, Sigil Magic. These are the notes on one page. Pick a goal. Boil it down to a, I think it says boil it down to a sentence. This is my wish. Combine all the letters in the sentence into a shape, or just do consonants. No repeats. Charge the sigil. Forget the sigil. Actively work towards goals.